Hello and welcome to Forever Box. And on the back of Rassie Erasmus's announcement yesterday of his team against Italy on Saturday, the conversations are aligned. And the big one everybody's having at the moment is the race for that fullback jersey. Aphelele Fassi versus Damian Willemse. The latter not been involved with the Springboks for over a year now and will make his first appearance since the 2023 World Cup final. In Willemse's absence, Aphelele Fassi has taken the number 15 jersey and made it his own. He's been really, really good and has fixed a lot of the shortcomings he had when he first sort of came into the box system. He was let go and shortly before the World Cup, and there's a whole story about him even playing sort of with his box jersey underneath the Sharks jersey as he really wanted to try and get back into that box setup, because that was the big dream for Aphelele Fassi. He was sent back and told exactly what he has to change, exactly what he has to fix. He did that, and he had a really good season for the box last year. But now, the prodigy son returns, really. And he is the prodigy son, because Damian Willemse was involved in 2019 World Cup, as a 20-year-old, 21-year-old, came through to the box, made his debut, I think just 19 years old, and has never really looked back. It took him a while maybe to sort of settle in. I think we probably brought him in slightly too early, but he had that kind of talent. And during the 2023 World Cup, and even 2022 sort of, and even the British and Irish Lions series, we started to see the Damian Willemse we thought we would see, And sometimes it does take time for some players to come through and adapt at the level. We actually even seen it with Aphelele Fassi. But now we're sitting here with two absolute world-class fullbacks. A fullback that's about to hit 100 caps in Willie le Roux, as well as a young one who's chomping at the bit to get going in likes Quan Horn. And I think that fullback is arguably the most healthy position the Springboks probably have. That and probably like the likes of a lock. I think we've got locks coming out of holes in the ground at the moment. You've got so many different options there. But I do think that one of the strongest positions the Springboks have got is fullback, and something that we're sort of taken for granted. But now we're seeing a genuine dogfight with two players with not much between them. And I don't think we've seen sort of a situation with two players so close and consistently pushing each other since probably, Lekanya and Jesse Creel maybe. Where every single time each of them play at a really strong game. Even Andre Estes and Damian Delany, they're probably a little bit more between the two players than they probably are right now between Aphelele Fassi and Damian Willemse. So today we're going to have a look at a little bit of sort of what we've seen in the past, what we're seeing now, and kind of what we might see in the future. Let's get into it, shall we? First of all, the incumbent Aphelele Fassi. Well, last year he was involved across the entire board. He played against Wales, where he started and played full 70 minutes. He then didn't play against Ireland because we went with Willie le Roux for those two Ireland games, but he came back against Portugal. He then went on to feature in against Australia, against New Zealand. He started against New Zealand, actually. He featured against both Argentina games, and on the end of year tour, he featured against both England and Wales. So all of a sudden, somebody who I think was a one-cap box before last year, he now all of a sudden is sitting with, I think 12 caps. I think he played about 10 games last year. So he really sort of stepped it up. Now, you've then got Willie le Roux, for example, who last year started against Ireland. Started a lot of the big games, in fairness to Willie le Roux. He started against Ireland in those two games. Started in the one game against Australia. Started the one game against New Zealand. And then at the end of year tour, he started against Scotland. Now, he is back in the mix this weekend on the bench because we have to try and make way for this man. Now, probably one of the biggest tests in Damian Willemse's career so far. And given the fact that, we're talking about a player who is 27 years old, two-time World Cup winner, one-time British and Irish Lions winner, two times Rugby Championship winner. He's won the URC. He is one of the best players in the world on his day. Not just in the Springboks, in the world on his day. This is arguably his biggest challenge because he's now missed 18 months of international rugby. He's not been involved in the box since 2023. And if we go back to sort of how involved he was in 2023, he missed one game in the entire World Cup. He started at 15 against Scotland, at 10 against Romania, at 15 against Ireland, 15 against France, 15 against England, 15 against New Zealand. He was our starting fullback. Even though they talked about how important Willie le Roux was, Damian Willemse started every single game he played the World Cup. The only game he didn't play was against Samoa when Andre Pollard was back and we rotated. He started against New Zealand in that dominant away victory at Twickenham. He started against Argentina in the Rugby Championship. So, he's played, he's very quietly, at just 27 years old, notched up 40 caps, and he would be a 50 cap Bok had he not been injured. So he's on the journey to become a 100 cap Bok. During the World Cup, he was arguably, I'll keep saying it, within our top 5 best players. And now he's got to come back and remind everybody what he can do and what he's all about because of, you know, that injury spell. Because I think for the first time ever, he was settled in the team, but he's never had to come back into the team. And there are question marks about his form, given the fact that it took him a while to sort of get going once again in the URC. So if we look at his season this year, for example, he made his return. He played a bit in September and October, but then got injured again, and then he came back in March. Since then, he's only played 2 games actually at fullback, played 3 games at center and 1 game off the bench. So he's not played a tremendous amount of minutes this year. But towards the last stage of the tournament, if it wasn't for his red card, he would have probably played in that quarterfinal. He started to look a little bit more like the Damian Willemse of old. Now, I think that between these 2 players, first of all, I think we've got 2 of the top fullbacks in the world. At their very best, I think Damian Willemse is the man you go to. I do think he's a much more all-round player. I think he's defensively absolutely phenomenal. Give him a bit of space and he'll punish you, much like Aphelele Fassi with sort of the X factor. Very different kicking games. Aphelele Fassi, got the little chippers over their head and sort of grab it in behind. Damian Willemse probably maybe not quite a strong kicking game, although he's really worked on that trademark almost Damian Willemse grab it from inside his own half towards sort of the 22, searching for those 50-22s. Willemse probably more of a playmaker, having all that experience previously at 10, can put more players in and around him. Maybe not quite like this man, Willie le Roux, but he has got those options. Now, this man is playing his 99th game for the Springboks this weekend. His 99th test, and he is set to become a 100-test Bok, which he deserves. He 100% deserves. This is now, however, the end of Willie le Roux's career. We are looking at probably his last year in a Bok jersey. And that's kind of been accepted by the Springbok management. They are going to give him to 100 caps and then probably look to phase him out. I think he'll go straight into coaching once he finishes his playing. I think he's a player that reads the game, understands the game like few others. But unfortunately, we are seeing him, get to that age where it's probably time to move on. He's not massively old. He's 35 years old. So, he can still play for the Bulls for a couple of years, but I do think also we're probably going to see a proper retirement, not just sort of being phased out, but play his 100 games and then maybe say, that's it, I'm done. Even maybe before the game, say, right, my 100th game is my last game. I'm going to finish on top and move away. Because it's becoming very difficult to justify having him over this man. Quan Horn has been phenomenal for the Lions. This season, I think he was ranked 5th on those URC, or 5th or 6th on the URC sort of top 100 based on stats. He has been absolutely banging the door down. And, from an international point of view, we've seen Aphelele Fassi come through and do really well. We've also got Damian Willemse back. This player right here, I think, is going to put genuine pressure on both of them, to be perfectly honest. Even if we have a situation with Aphelele Fassi starting, Damian Willemse coming off the bench, once he's called back in the squad, I think right now he's probably the most unlucky player not to be involved in the Springbok squad right now, based on his form in the past season. I would even have him as a wing, potentially ahead of, eventually probably even ahead of potentially Makazolma Pimpy. He can play on the wing, can play at fullback. He's got it all. He's got a really good boot, left-footed boot as well, so something a bit different. He's defensively pretty sound, and on the attack, he makes a lot of meters. Maybe not quite in the same way that Damian Willemse doesn't necessarily have that sort of trademark step that Willemse has. Aphelele Fassi also has got that sort of top pace, but he's deceptively quick, and he reads and sort of understands space. Probably the best of the 3 because he makes it work so well for him, and he's incredibly young. And this is an important thing. We were talking about our future options. Those 3 are going to be our options for the next 5-6 years. And Quan Horn is very much a long-term option because he's so young. So those are our options at the moment. I personally think we are looking at Damian Willemse as our number 1 choice when he gets back. Aphelele Fassi as our number 2 choice. Then Willie le Roux. But I think very soon we're going to see Quan Horn as that number 3 choice. What is your picking order? Let me know down in the comments below. Smash the like on the video. Subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Steve. I'll chat to you soon.